Should I rent or buy right now? I get this question constantly, and I completely understand why it feels impossible to answer. Search for it online and you will find articles saying renting is the smart play, and articles saying buying is the only real path to wealth. Almost none of them actually do the math for your specific market. And the ones that do are usually trying to sell you something. So today, I am going to do something different. I am going to run the actual 5-year financial comparison for Mississauga in 2026. Clearly, transparently, and as fairly as I can to both sides. Because the honest answer is, it depends. But it depends on very specific things. And once you understand that those things are the right answer for your life, it becomes a lot clearer. I'm Jyoti Shamnani, realtor with Engel & Walkers in Oakville, and I have been helping families navigate this exact decision in Mississauga and Oakville for years. Let's get into it. Now, I have built a free rent versus buy calculator where you plug in your own income, rent, and savings and see the 5-year comparison for your situation. Link is in the description. Grab it before we go through this together. Let's start with renting, the full picture. Most people think of their monthly rent as their housing cost. It's not, it's the floor. Let me show you what that renting a comparable family home in Mississauga will actually cost over the period of 5 years. Right now, a 2-bedroom apartment in Mississauga runs between $2,400 to $2,800 a month. A 3-bedroom, whether a rental unit, a townhome, or a semi, is typically $3,000 to $3,600. And if you have been looking lately, you will know that rental supply has actually improved. And there are more options than there were a year ago. And landlords are more flexible. For our comparison, we'll use $3,200 a month. And that's a realistic mid-range number for the Mississauga market today. Let's look at the 5-year rental ledger. Okay, monthly rent today is $3,200, year 1 total $38,400, year 2 $39,552, year 3 approximately $40,000, year 4 $41,000, year 5 $43,000. The total rent over 5-year period is above $200,000. Equity, 0. Now, over 5 years, a rental in 3-bedroom Mississauga unit pays approximately $200,000 in housing cost and owns nothing at the end of it. That is not a criticism of renting. It is just the honest math we need to start with. Now, the fair counter argument, and it is a legitimate one, it is that the renter's down payment money is still sitting in an investment account growing. And we will account for that. I'll bring it back in when we do the final comparison. But first, let's build the other side of the ledger. Now let's look at the full cost of buying, including the parts people forget. Let's use a realistic purchase of the same type of family. A 3-bedroom townhome in Mississauga based on what's available right now, we'll price that at $850,000. That's consistent with where mover buyer activity is concentrated in the current Mississauga market. Let's look at the upfront costs. Down payment at 10%, the minimum for a home between $500,000 to $1 less than $1 million is $85,000. For many buyers, this comes partly from their FHSA and RRSP home buyers plan. Let's assume the buyer has this saved. Then there are closing costs. These are the ones people consistently underestimate. Ontario land transfer tax on $850,000 is $13,475. Legal fee around $2,500. Home inspection $500. Total closing cost $16,475. So the total cash needed on day 1 is $85,000 plus that $16,000. That makes it $101,000 approximately. Now the monthly carrying cost is the mortgage after 10% down, which is on $765,000. Because this is below 20%, CMHC will kick in. Calculate that at 3.10% of insured amount, $23,715 added to the mortgage. Total is $788,000 roughly. At a competitive 5-year fixed rate of 4.39% over 25 years, the monthly mortgage payment is approximately $4,300. But the mortgage is not your only cost. The full monthly picture is the mortgage payment of $4,300, property tax roughly $530, home insurance $150, maintenance reserve approximately $708. Total monthly cost is $5,688 per month. The gap between renting and owning on monthly basis is approximately $2,488. That's $29,000 approximately per year to own then to the rent equivalent space. That number is real and it matters, but it is not the end of the analysis. Here is what that higher payment is actually doing. Of that $4,300 mortgage payment, roughly $1,420 in the first month goes directly to paying down your principal, building equity. That number grows slightly every month as your balance decreases. Over 5 years, you will have paid down approximately $95,000 in principal. You're not spending that $1,420, you are paying it to yourself. Now let's look at what does your net worth look like after 5 years. Let's bring both scenarios to the same finish line. 5 years from today and see where each person stands, the renter and the buyer. Okay, let's look at the buyer's position after 5 years. Using a conservative 3% annual appreciation, which aligns with current market forecast for Mississauga as conditions stabilize, the $850,000 townhome is worth approximately $985,000 after 5 years. Property value after 5 years is $985,000. Remaining mortgage approximately $690,000. Home equity $291,000. Original down payment was $85,000. Net equity gain $200,000 roughly. The renter's position after 5 years. The renter kept their $85,000 in an investment account. At 6% annual return, a reasonable long-term assumption for a balanced portfolio on that $85,000 grows to approximately $113,800. They paid $204,000 in the rent. Their investment account is worth $113,800. They have no property, no equity. The side-by-side comparison. Now, buyer net equity $291,000, renter investment $113,000, buyer net worth advantage $177,000 approximately. Over 5 years, on these assumptions, the buyer comes out ahead by approximately $177,000 in net worth, even after paying $29,000 more per year in carrying cost. The math works because home equity compounds alongside investment returns, and principal paydown is essentially forced savings every single month. But, and this is important, that assumes the renter actually invests the $85,000 and consistently invests the $2,488 monthly difference in carrying cost. Most people don't do this. The disciplined renter who really does invest every dollar of the difference will close that gap significantly. The renter who spends the difference will not. Now, I want to be fair here. Renting can be the smarter choice. I am a real estate agent. I could have built this analysis to always favor buying. I didn't, because that would be dishonest and it wouldn't actually serve you. There are real situations where renting is the right financial decision right now, and I want to name them clearly. Renting is the smarter choice if your job or income is uncertain. Real estate is liquid. If there is a meaningful chance your income changes significantly in the next 2 years, locking yourself into a $5,688 monthly housing cost is a real risk. You're planning to leave Mississauga within 3 years. The transaction cost of buying and selling, roughly 4 to 5% of the purchase price, mean you need appreciation just to break even. A 3-year horizon is too short in most scenarios. Your down payment would leave you with no financial cushion. Owning a home comes with unexpected costs. A furnace, a roof, an appliance, these things happen. If buying depletes your emergency fund entirely, that's a precautious position. The monthly payment would genuinely strain your budget. A $5,688 monthly housing cost on a household income of $120,000 is 57% of gross income. Too high. The guideline is to keep total housing cost under 39% of gross income. If the math doesn't work at your income level, It doesn't work. And here is something I genuinely believe. A renter who is financially disciplined, who invests consistently, who has a clear plan, that person is making a thoughtful, respectable financial choice. Buying is not always the answer. What's always the answer is making the decision with clear eyes on the actual numbers. Now let's look at why the timing matters more than people realize. Here is what's specific in 2026 that shifts this calculation relative to the last few years. Prices have come down. Detached home prices in Mississauga are approximately 9% below their peak, and they are shifting around 1.2 million based on current HPI data from TREP. Townhomes and semis have also softened. The mortgage you are taking on today is smaller than it would have been in 2022. Rates have improved significantly. The Bank of Canada's policy rate held at 2.25 as of March 2026, well below the peak of 2023. Competitive 5-year fixed rates are now in 4.29% to 4.49% range, compared to qualifying rates above 7% just 18 months ago. That difference is hundreds of dollars per month on the same mortgage. Inventory is high and buyers have leverage, and there are approximately 2,800 active listings in Mississauga right now, with homes sitting for roughly 27 days on average based on current MLS data. You're not competing in a frenzied seller's market. You have time to think, to negotiate, to get a home inspection. That was not the reality in 2021 and 2022. Now, those three things together, lower prices, better rates, and buyer leverage, represent a window that hasn't existed in several years. That doesn't mean rush. It means if the math works for your life, the conditions today are among the most favorable we have seen since before 2020. So let me pull this together. For a family in Mississauga planning to stay for 5 or more years with stable income and a down payment that doesn't leave them stretched, the data in 2026 shows that buying builds meaningfully more net worth than renting over that period. Approximately $177,000 more on the assumptions we used today. For a family with an uncertain income, a short timeline, or a budget that would be genuinely strained by ownership, renting is the more responsible choice right now. And there is nothing wrong with that. The right answer is not the same for everyone. What I want you to have is the honest framework to figure out what's right for you, not a cheerleader telling you to jump in, and not paralysis from headlines that don't reflect your actual situation. The free calculator for rent versus buy is in the description. It only takes 3 minutes. Fill in and it will show you your personal 5-year comparison. Download it, run your numbers, see where you land. And if you want to talk through the results or just want someone to look at your specific income, savings, and target neighborhood and give you an honest read, I do a 20-minute strategy call. No pressure, no obligation, just clarity. Book using the link in the description. I'll see you in the next one.